Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel where we keep it real and simple when it comes to health, fitness, and every other topic in between. Today, we're going to be diving into a topic that many people are curious about, and those are the What I Eat in a Day videos. Specifically, we're going to be following along a video compilation of a young woman named Ailene who's on a weight loss journey and is laser focused on achieving a calorie deficit through the foods that she eats. Now, let me be abundantly clear that this is not a shaming or ridicule video. It takes a ton of courage to put yourself out there on social media, and especially when you're going through something as personal as a weight loss journey. What I really want to focus on with this video are some of the decisions she is making as she is over-focused on achieving a calorie deficit, and to explain how while she is achieving a calorie deficit, she may be actually setting herself up to fail in various ways and struggle on her weight loss journey. So keep watching, hit that like button down below, and for sure, hit the subscribe button to keep watching content just like this. Enough chit chat, let's get right into it. Let's get started with her first day of eating. I'll let the clip run all the way through, and then I'll talk about some of the things that stuck out for me and some of the choices that she made and how they could either be helping her or making it harder for her to achieve her weight loss goal. As you're watching it as well, comment below what you observed and what you potentially would do differently if you were in her shoes. I'd be interested to start a conversation to see where your head is at when it comes to eating healthy and maintaining a calorie deficit.
Day as a 26-year-old. Okay, so today I was traveling back to Tucson. Fortunately, I did not get free breakfast on the last day, so I just had a protein bar, and I stopped halfway in Casa Grande and I went to Long John Silver. This is such a throwback to my childhood. I remember that I used to love going to Long John Silver's. I had some hush puppies. They were just as good as I remember. And then I had their 3-piece shrimp, which was so delicious. I was so proud because I ate the meat inside of the tail in one go, and I never do that. Okay, when I got home, I was a little bit hungry, so I had some white rice and some veggies with sriracha. Later on, as a snack, I had cheese and peanut butter crackers. For dinner, I had the Southwest salad at Chili's. Thanks for coming along, y'all. Bye.
All right, let's talk about it. She starts off the day with a protein-packed breakfast. She had that little protein bar, gave her about 20 grams of protein. Sounds good, doesn't it? It would be if she had some more volume around that protein bar. I'm not saying she needs to eat a big old breakfast of like eggs and bacon and sausage and a protein bar, but the protein bar is super small, and that means the volume it occupies in her stomach is not going to be that great. And although, yes, protein by itself does help calm your hunger down, if there's nothing else around that food item, that protein can only do so much, and an empty stomach is an empty stomach. And it's often very hard to ignore the pains of hunger, the call of hunger. And for someone like her who has a larger amount of weight to lose, that call of hunger is potentially very loud. So she would have done better to include some fruit around that protein bar. And after she had the protein bar, her hunger was still kicking pretty hardcore, so she went to Long John Silver's. I got my own issues with going to a fast food place while you're trying to maintain a calorie deficit, but she at least did choose items that were not super high in calorie. They were also very low in protein. There was pretty much no protein in the hush puppies, probably less than 10 grams. And those 3 shrimp that she had, while yes, there's protein in the shrimp, they were breaded, they were fried, so they're high calorie, small volume. She's choosing food items that, while they do have protein, they don't have much volume to them. And if your stomach is constantly empty, it's going to constantly remind you to fill it with food that makes you feel good and tells your stomach to shut the hell up. Once she was done with the Long John Silver's and done with work, she got home and she was still hungry. Shocker, she potentially had maybe all of 30 grams of protein so far. And when she goes home, what does she have? A healthy meal of some rice with sriracha and vegetables, but again, almost 0 grams of protein. So that meal does occupy space. There's a good amount of volume from the vegetables, and that portion of rice was not unreasonable, but with almost no protein to it, she's gonna be hungry again. So she does go for a more protein-filled dinner, heads to Chili's, has their Santa Fe chicken salad. You can clearly see that the salad did have chicken in it, but it also came with some fried tortilla strips and a generous serving of dressing. The tortilla strips and the dressing are going to be high in calorie, low in volume. And while yes, there is chicken on the salad, that is barely going to give her possibly like 30 grams of protein from that meal. And that is me being generous about the portion of chicken that's on there. We're all dealing with this whole shrinkflation issue when we go out to eat. So even though we're paying full price, we're not going to get a full serving of protein like we used to. Her final meal was one of the more protein dense of the day, but it was not enough to even get her close to hitting 100 grams of protein. 100 grams of protein is not a ton. In fact, that's kind of the baseline amount for every adult, male, female, whatever you want to call yourself. You need at least 100 grams of protein. That's not going to turn you into some big bodybuilder. You don't need to eat it all in one meal, but you do need to eat that throughout the entirety of the day so you can control your hunger. You can give your muscles extra building blocks so that when you do work out, you gain some muscle, and it will also give you a little bit of energy that lasts longer than the energy you get from just carbohydrates alone. Last thing I want to point out is at the end here on this picture, you can see that she took in only 1,752 calories, which for most adults that have some weight to lose would be phenomenal, fantastic, great. But in the beginning of the video, she points out that she's just getting started on her weight loss journey. 17 to 1,800 calories for a woman of her size is going to give her very little energy. While yes, she's going to have a massive, and I mean a massive calorie deficit, it is not going to be one that she can maintain control over. And if she's not controlling it, she's probably not going to be that consistent at it. And I have some questions about what happens outside of the videos, as we'll see in a couple other clips later on. Keep watching, hit that like button. Let's see how she does on her next day of eating.
26-year-old on a calorie deficit. Okay, so I've been super crazy busy lately. So for breakfast, I packed some fruit, strawberries and apples, so delicious together, and an Ailene caramel protein bar. I'm actually so disappointed. This was not the best protein bar. It was so sad. Oh well, you live and you learn. Okay, next up for lunch, I made Caesar salad pasta. I have never had like a pasta version of this. It was actually really delicious and I really enjoyed it. Also, this pasta was a protein pasta, so it actually had 20 grams of protein in it, which made me feel super full and satisfied throughout the day. I was so exhausted by the time I got home, so I just got Subway. I usually get my ultimate BMT, and then I got Sun Chips. Also add cucumber and mustard. Oh, just so delicious and juicy. Here on as a snack, I had a P3. This has 10 grams of protein. It has turkey, cheese, these chocolate clusters. So yummy. One thing that's really helped me stay successful in my calorie deficit is always having some form of dessert. So I had one of these popsicles. They are so delicious. Everything came out to 1,750.
All right. Let's talk about this second day of eating. And I really got to commend her for preparing her first meal at home. You saw that colorful array of fruit that she had looked excellent. And this time, the protein bar that she had came with the fruit. So she had more food volume, but she wasn't too pleased with the bar. It only had 10 grams of protein, which is less than the one she had the previous video. And it potentially wasn't hitting that sweet spot, pun intended, of flavor, texture, whatever. So bear in mind that as convenient as protein bars are, they're only gonna really satisfy the protein target for your day. Many of them are not gonna quite keep you feeling full and satisfied, and think of them as a protein-packed candy bar because there's still a good amount of sugar in them to make them taste good, and just because they have protein in them doesn't mean that they are free from calories, so look at the labels. She also makes her second meal of the day at home. It's that Caesar pasta salad. It would have been better to include more protein than just the protein-packed pasta, because I believe she said there's like 20 grams of protein in the pasta itself. So at least her meal had 20 grams of protein in it, and there also was a good amount of dressing on top. So that is why that salad was just under about 600 calories when it was really just protein pasta and lettuce. The dressing accounted for a ton of the calories, probably about half of them. At the end of the day, she gets home after work and she reports she feels exhausted. I'm not saying that her work environment isn't high stress, high focus, whatever, but with a low amount of protein, and if she's really indeed eating this few of calories, her energy levels are not going to be that great. A ton of carbohydrates, a low amount of protein means her blood sugar goes up and then down shortly after, and that means her energy level does the same. Goes up after the meal, crashes hard after, and unless she re-ups with more food, she's gonna struggle bus through the workday. When she gets home, she satisfies her hunger with some Subway sandwich and chips. You can see from the video that the Subway sandwich was thick with bread, very thin with meat, and the chips, they're just chips. They might not be the highest calorie chip, but there's almost no protein in them. And overall, that meal had a few slices of deli meat in it, and that's about it. So again, she's low on protein, high on carbohydrates. After she has her Subway, she does have a protein snack, the P3 protein pack. It's advertised to be a high protein snack, but if you look at the label, it has more calories coming from fat than it does actual protein. The turkey or whatever deli meat that's in it does have protein, and so does the almonds, the cashews, the peanuts, whatever nuts they put in there. But there's a larger amount of calories coming from fat contained in the nuts and in the cheese. So just because it's labeled as being a protein snack doesn't mean that's all that's in it. There's going to be other things that make it delicious for people to eat, like fat. So a convenient protein source is not always the most complete protein source for you. Lastly, she does account for the fact that she has a sweet tooth. She helps herself by having a sweet treat at the end of the day, and this one is a respectable 40 calories. So props to her for that. Making sure to account for your tendencies, whether you have a sweet tooth or if you're like me and you have a salt tooth, you still want to have those things within your calorie deficit or your diet plan so that you can have a little bit of joy, just it should be somewhat regulated. The issue happens when people completely deprive themselves of that little bit of joy, and then when they get a little bit of access to it, bam, it's off to the races. So the worst thing you can do is deprive yourself. The second worst thing you can do is overindulge yourself. The best thing is to allow yourself a little bit of that joy, but put some boundaries around it. Have it at the end of all your meals. You want to essentially plan out your indulgences rather than going off of how you feel inside. That's my takeaway. It doesn't have to be something that is a reward for exercising because that's a toxic relationship. You just have to account for your indulgence using this and not so much this as in your heart. Let your brain be the guide. Let the logic be the guide, not your feelings. Your feelings can be flawed, and if you're always going off your feelings and eating the way you feel, you're going to feel pretty bad in the long term because you're not eating with a structure that takes you to the place you want to get to. We're going to go through one more of our day of meals, so throw a like down there, hit the subscribe button if you haven't, and comment below some of the protein sources that you tend to choose when you're trying to eat healthy. I'd love to hear from you, and maybe I can help you with some other ideas to keep you along the road to success. Let's dive into her third day of eating and see the choices she makes.
A day as a 26-year-old on a calorie deficit. Okay, so for breakfast today, I had this wee yogurt. I am obsessed. These are probably my favorite yogurt. Did not realize that this was a whole milk yogurt though, and I almost risked my entire life this morning. If you guys have been following me for a while, you know that I'm super lactose. Usually I get their dairy-free options. I also had a brownie fiber 1 bar. I love that these are only 70 calories. Lunch, I had spaghetti that I had the night before. I added 93% lean beef to this. So glad I meal prepped this because I was so busy during lunch. Okay, so once I got off work, I decided to go to Choice Greens. I love this place. Definitely have healthier options here. I always order their turkey club sandwich. Bacon that's in this is so delicious and crispy. It also has lettuce, mayo. The turkey is such good quality. I already know I had to wash this down with some cold water. Nothing like cold, crispy water after like a very hot day. Instead of chips, I decided to have this with some apple slices. I love apples so much. Honestly, this really hit the spot. It was another great day of sticking to my calorie deficit. Thank you guys for coming.
All right, I saw some bright spots on this day, so let's talk about them. She did start the day with yogurt. I don't believe it was Greek yogurt, so unfortunately it probably was lower on the protein scale. She did confirm that she had a whole milk version of yogurt, so it's very savory and rich, very thick, but also is higher in calorie than if she had the non-dairy or sugar-based version. You can get your yogurt in a dairy-free, so there's more sugar, less fat, or a whole milk version, so there's higher fat, almost no sugar. Both of them contain calories, and it really comes down to the texture and the taste that you prefer. She pairs her yogurt with another bar. This one was low in calories, I believe it was only 70 calories, and it actually had additional fiber in it. I couldn't quite see how much protein it had, so hopefully between the yogurt and the bar, she was getting at least 15, maybe 20 grams of protein. After she had that first meal, she had probably one of the best meals I've seen of these compilation videos. She made protein pasta. You could see that there was some meat sauce on it. She brought it from home. It looked like a reasonable portion. You know that was loaded up with protein. I'm really gonna clap it up for her. That was a well portioned out meal. She planned ahead, and It looks like it gave her enough energy to get through her work day so that she had a good vibe going into her last sit-down meal. Unfortunately, she opted for a sandwich for this one, which has a ton of bread on it. She also confirms that she knows she doesn't need to have chips, so she had apples instead. That's a great choice. Apples are super low in calorie, they're high in volume, and other than having to pay more than, like 80 cents for one since she went to a restaurant for it, there's no harm, no foul there. And this is the first time I've seen her confirm that she drinks water with her meal. Most of her meals, she has some kind of high-calorie juice or soda with it. This time she had crisp, clear water. And water is something that if you're trying to maintain a calorie deficit, you need to drink a ton of it. Water has no calories, it occupies space in your stomach, and if you keep your stomach full, it's not gonna be yelling at you to fill me with food. So drinking plenty of water, add some flavor to it if you want. That won't add more calories, but it will add some taste, and that will make it easier for you to stay hydrated throughout the day. And staying hydrated isn't just about keeping your stomach full. It keeps your brain in the game. If you are getting dehydrated, your brain's not going to have enough liquid within it. It's not going to process things well. Your focus goes down, and we often cope with a lack of focus with food. So this was one of her better days of eating. She doesn't say what the calorie count on this day is, but if it follows the trend of the previous 3 days, it was just around 1,800 calories. And for someone of her size at the beginning of their weight loss journey, that is an aggressive calorie deficit. I would love to see how she eats later on in the day, because in all of the 3 videos, she finishes eating while the sun is still out. So that means that either she goes to bed shortly thereafter and fasts till that first meal in the later morning, or she's eating foods that we don't get to see. And as I said earlier, with a big aggressive deficit, it gets extremely hard to maintain over the long term. She may see herself losing some weight over the first week or 2, but in order for her to maintain it, she's gonna have to continue eating like we saw in these videos. And some of those meals were not enough food for her, for you, for many of us that are really being serious about our weight loss. And I say that with all the respect in the world, because for someone of her size, eating only about 1,800 calories, and this is the early part of her journey, she is having a massive calorie deficit that she has to use a lot of willpower to not give in to her hunger temptations. And unless she's drinking a ton of water or she's doing exercise to occupy herself, she's gonna have a tough time getting through the night. So this is why I make it a big point to not aim for the largest deficit possible, but instead create a small one. Get used to it and slowly increase that deficit to the point that you can sustain it and see some drops on the scale. Your calorie deficit should be based upon slowly decreasing the portions of your food that you're eating, and then making better food choices so you're eating a higher volume but maintaining a smaller calorie intake. Foods that are high in fiber, foods that are fruits, vegetables, processed with minimal oil, minimal sugar, minimal salt. Those aspects will help you maintain your calorie deficit in a better and more realistic manner. Let me leave you with several key takeaways. First and foremost, you need to focus protein in every one of your meals. Whether it's a snack, a sit-down meal, whatever, you should have a quality protein source within that meal. The second takeaway, fruits and vegetables are your friends. They should be part of your meals as a side or a snack in between meals while you have a smaller serving of protein. This is going to keep the volume of food high while the calories are very small. And the third and final takeaway, drink water, drink more water, and are you sure you're drinking enough water? Water will keep volume in your stomach, it won't add calories to your day, and adding some flavoring that is low or no calorie makes it so water is now enjoyable to drink. You focus on the protein, focus on fruits and vegetables, and staying hydrated primarily with water. You do those 3 things with a moderate 500 to 1,000 calorie a day deficit, you will lose weight, you will maintain that weight loss, and you will not go crazy. I trust you learned something from this video. Put your questions, your comments, and your disagreements down below. Let's have a conversation. In just a moment, you're going to see a video popping up that goes on to show you how to get more protein without losing your mind. Give it a watch, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video.